Okay, good morning. So after last night's class, as we were leaving the classroom, I was, I was just kind of thinking how you seem to be so overwhelmed by the things that we were talking in class. Especially as we were talking about the idea of the literature review, I felt it was very overwhelming for you. But then I was thinking, what can I do? What can we do with it? But the idea is there's really no shortcuts to the way we do literature review or the need to do literature review, because what is a literature review? As you can see here, the literature review is a summary. It's a summary of what other people have written. So it is a place where you will be saying to the people that will be reading your paper, you'll be saying, let me share with you what other people have said. There are many other people who have written on this topic, and let me share it with you. And you'll be giving a summary of what other people have done. And in order to be doing that summary, there's no shortcut to it, but to go and read the vast material that's already written on your topic. So I hope you will see the value of this one and be encouraged and persevere in doing this, because it's really an important skill and it's important for us to learn to do this one. So what is a literature review? So I felt like let me give you a brief summary of the things that we talked about yesterday in class, so that if you want to go back and watch it, hear what we've been saying in class. So I decided to do this YouTube and put it up on YouTube and share the link for you so that you can see it. So what is a literature review? A literature review is basically a written summary of journal articles, books, and other materials, documents that describe the past and the current state of information related to your topic. So it's a place where you give a summary. It's a place where you give a summary of what has already been done. You remember the giants, what the giants have already done on your topic. So you give a summary of it. Now, why is it important? So why is it important for you to do literature review? Why is the literature review part important for us? So we've said a number of things. Let me share the things that we said. The first part is it provides you the theoretical foundation for your research, for your study. It exposes you to different theories that are already out there on your topic, because you can see what other people have done. It exposes you to what they have done. Now, as you think of your topic, you're thinking of it like this, small, but as you read more, it expands your knowledge of it, and it helps you to decide on the scope of what your study is going to be. It gives the researcher insight into what has already been done in the selected field, so you'll be able to see what has already been done. That way you'll be avoiding duplication, as well as we'll see later on. It enables you to know the kind of data you need to collect. It helps you to see, okay, I'm going to collect data, but what data do I collect? You may have decided some things, but then as you read, it will give you more ideas as to what kind of data you can also collect. It also helps you avoid duplication. In case somebody else has done a very similar study, then you won't repeat the same study, but instead you will build on what other people have done. So gives you theoretical foundation, what other people have done. You'll be able to see what was already done in your area. It will show you what kind of data you'll be able to collect. It will help you to avoid duplication, and it helps you develop the basis for analyzing your data. How do I go ahead and analyze it? The methodology you'll be using it. Even within quantitative, there are many ways of analyzing data, the same within the qualitative as well. It helps you to develop the research hypothesis. Where does my research hypothesis come from? The research hypothesis comes from the literature review, because hypothesis is your educated guess. Educated from what am I educated? You're going to be educated from your reading of what other people have already done. As you read what other people have done, based on what they have done, you will be making an educated guess. This is what they found out. This is what their study has found out. And therefore, this is what I'm anticipating. So your hypothesis is based on the literature that's done. So where does the hypothesis come from? It comes from your literature review or your readings. Now, the one that I missed is it also shows you the approach that you can use, or the designs that you can use. You may have decided to do one of the qualitative studies, one of the qualitative designs, but then as you read others, you may come across one study that used correlational approach, and he has or she has done an excellent job with that, and maybe you'll say, oh, I think this will work for me, and you may want to do a different design. So as you read literatures, as you work on other people's, what they have done, it will enable you to see what designs to use, what approach to use. It helps you to see how you can analyze your data. It will help you to develop your own hypothesis as well. So this has few of the benefits of it. So it helps you understand what it is, what has been done on it. It helps you to determine your scope. It helps you to determine what kind of data you are to be able to look for. It helps you avoid possible duplication so you don't repeat what other people have done. It helps you to see how you can approach it, what kind of research design to use. It will help you to decide on how do I analyze it. And finally, it helps you come up with your hypothesis. And in all of this, you will have a more strong grasp of your topic and more confidence in what you actually want to do. Okay? So how do we go about it? Now that you have all of those things, how do you actually sit down and write your literature review? So let me share with us briefly the things that we talked about yesterday, the steps. The first step is to start with your title. So you look at your title and you see what kind of words do I have? What descriptors do I have? So what you want to do is you want to see key concepts in there or variables. What are the key concepts in my title? What are the variables that are in my title? So you identify the keywords, the descriptors, the concepts, key concepts, or the variables that are on your title. So you begin by looking at your title. So when you are looking for literature, you're not going to be looking for literature that is written at exactly your topic, because you can't find a literature on exactly your topic. There will be a variation of it. So when you look for literature, you'll be looking for literature based on the concepts and variables that you have in your topic. This was the example I gave us. Suppose you have this as a title. What effects does parental involvement have on the dropout rate of low-income high school students? Now, we have identified from this one the key concepts in there, or the variables, and they would be parental involvement, dropout rate, low income, high school students. These are the different variables or concepts we find in this topic. So when we go looking for literature, when you begin to look for, okay, what books are out there, what journal articles are written out there, you'll be looking for them in relation to these areas. So you'll be Googling or searching for books or journal articles related to, for example, related to parental involvement. So you'll find different journals, books that talk about parental involvement in a family. You'll then look for materials related to dropout rate. You'll be looking for materials related to low income. You'll be looking for materials related to high school students. And then you will see if you can find materials that relate parental involvement in a low-income family and dropout rates that would relate those two. If you find materials that would relate the independent variable with the dependent variable. And so you'll be looking for resources related to all of those ones. So the point is, when you look for books and resources, you will not be looking for them related to only your topic, but you'll be looking for them in relationship to the different variables or concepts that are in your topic. So you look at your topic, you look at your title, and you ask yourself, what are my key concepts? What are the key concepts I want to look for resources? And you will do that. The second point is identify relevance. So once you have identified those variables, key concepts in your title, Then you'll be going and searching for books. You'll look for books. You'll be looking for journals that are written on your topic. Where do you go? Of course, ETC Library to a certain extent, ProQuest, ERIC, all of these resources that we looked at yesterday, we talked about yesterday. So these resources, these areas, these places will give you some of the resources. You'll find journal articles, you'll find books related to it. You just need to type in your title and related to it, they will come. Those resources will come. But the point is, you will find so many of them. One of you sent me a list, showed me a list of resources, close to 60 resources. Now I know not all 60 resources are going to be good. They are in some way related to your variables or key concepts, but not all of them are going to be important for you. Some of them are good, some of them are okay, some of them are not good, are not related to you. They won't contribute to you. So what do? You leave the not good, you leave the okay ones, and you focus on the ones that are really good. And so you select the materials that you will be using that will be appropriate for you. Then you don't have to spend time studying the 60 or 70 different resources you have identified, okay? So what do? Once you have identified the 20 good ones that will be related to your literature review, then you begin to read. You begin to read those 20. Now, yesterday one of you came over to me and said, so I have this 2015 resources. So do I send that in to you? And I said, no, you have to read each one of them, and for each one of them you have to give me a brief summary of it and how it's going to be useful for you. And the person was shocked. Do I have to read all of those? And he went away very sad. But the point is, how can I identify all of those resources? You know, you have identified the 20 or 25 good resources, you said, which you will be using in your literature review. But the question is, how is it possible for you to include the things that are written in those ones into your paper unless you do what? Unless you read those ones. So it's important for you to read each one of them so that you will know which parts of those resources you've read will be included in your literature review. So there's no shortcut to that one, but to read each one of those. You have to be able to read each one of them. Now, this is the point. You don't necessarily have to read all of them in detail, but you have to be able to see at this stage, at least, at this stage, you have to be able to see what part of these resources are going to be helpful for you. You have to be able to identify a summary of it, and what is it talking about, and how is it going to be contributing to your study. So at least you need to, at this level, you need to be able to quickly skim and see what aspects of that journal article, what aspects of that book is going to be helpful for you in your literature. So that's what you do on this level. As you read, it says, assume that you will forget, and therefore what do? We have to be able to keep a record of what we're reading. I'm reading one resource, I keep a record of it. I give a citation. That means who wrote it, what was the title of the book, and then with that one, I keep a record of what part of that book is going to be helpful for me. Now, we said we can do that using different ones. We can use index cards, we can use two-dimensional matrices, or we can use the annotated bibliography. We can do this one to be able to keep a record of what we're reading and how what we're reading is going to be helpful for us in our writing when we're ready to write. This was a two-dimensional matrix that I shared with us in class. So what you have here is you have the different variables are written here, and then on this side you will keep adding the resources that you're reading. So you'll put the resource here, so you have the resource here, and then what aspect of that resource is going to be helpful for you? Which aspect of it is talking about your variables? So Barnes Roberts, he speaks about your parental involvement in these pages. He speaks about low income on these pages. Eve speaks about parental involvement, page 97. speaks about dropout rates on these pages 56 and 87. Kelly speaks on those ones. So this is a way of keeping a record of it. So you keep a record of what you are reading, and when you are ready to write later on, and you begin to write, for example, the section on parental involvement, when you begin to write about parental involvement, what you do is you pull out these books and you go exactly to these pages. You know where to go. So you go to these pages, you write a section on parental involvement. When you are done with it, you go to dropout rates. You go to these sections here on dropout rates, and you begin to write about dropout rates, and you do the same with low income. So that way, you have already done the work ahead of time, identifying what part of which resource will be helpful for you, and then when you're ready to write, it's easy. It's already there. You begin to write it. The annotated bibliography, the way you will be doing it is, so what you have is, on the top, you will write the citation. So you have the citation. So it could be one paragraph. At the beginning of the paragraph, you'll give a full citation, meaning the author, the title of the book, maybe the year. So you write the citation. Under the citation, what you do is 2 to 3 pages, or 2 to 3 sentences, summary, summarizing what that journal article, what that book is all about. This is talking about this topic. It addresses this issue, and then you will be showing how and what part of the resource you will use, and for which section of it. So what part of this resource are you going to be using? So you can indicate so that you later on, when you begin to write, you know exactly where to go. So your annotated bibliography will have the citation, and then a 2 to 3 sentence of summary of what that resource is about, and then how you're going to be using it in writing which section of your paper. The 5th step, so now you've come up with, you've read it, you have identified which resources talk about your topic and how they're going to be used for you. Then 5th one is for you to begin to read. You analyze, you summarize the literature. This is where you begin to think of integrating the different concepts. That means you have read 20 resources. So you have read 20 resources, you have a record of 20 resources, and how each of those resources are going to contribute to your topic. Now you have to look back and you have to see how do they relate with each other? How does what this person has written relate with that person? So you begin to integrate ስታደርጉት 4 ወይም 5 አንድ ቶፒክ ላይ ይሄዳሉ። 3 ምናምኖቹ ደግሞ ሌላ ቶፒክ ጋር ከዚህ ቶፒክ ጋር። ስለዚህ ምን ማለት ጀምራላችሁ? You begin to integrate what you have been reading, what they have been talking about. Okay, integrating the different concepts and developing an outline in your mind for your research. So the 6th step would be, now you begin to organize your literature. You come up with an outline. You come up with a draft outline. Based on the resources that you have and what you have been reading, you think of an outline for your literature. So what would my literature be like? So you have an introduction, and after the introduction, you will have topics related to maybe your independent variables based on what you're reading. So you come up with your outline. You set your outline. Your outline generally will be organized, like I said, with the big V. The big V. The big V, when you start very broadly with an introductory section. You will introduce your topic, and then you proceed more specifically relating to your topic. So you start broadly by introducing it, and then you speak about your variables, and then finally you come to the point where you talk about how your independent variable is related with your dependent variable, and you finish off. The example we saw is image of God in child education. So when we talk about this one, we can broadly start by talking about education, broadly about education, and then we talk about child education, and then we talk about the image of God, and finally we talk about how the image of God will determine the way we do education. 7th step now is synthesizing the literature. Okay, so we came up with an outline. Once we have the outline, now is when we begin to write, synthesize what we have been reading. That means we put together what they have said. Now, the way we put together what the different people have said, we need to do this. Literature review is not a chain of, you need to get this, is not a chain of isolated summaries of the writings of the authors. It is isolated የሆነ እንትና እንደዚህ ያለ እንትና እንደዚህ ያለ እየተባለ ምንም የማይገናኝ ነገር መለጠፍ ሊትሬቸር ሪቪው ሊሆን አይችልም። ኦኬ በለጠ እንደዚህ ብሏል፣ አየለች እንደዚህ ብላለች እያልን መለጠፋችን በራሱ ሊትሬቸር ሪቪው ነው። በለጠና አየለ ያሉትን ነገር አናላይዝ ማድረግ ይፈልጋል። አናላይዝ አድርገን በራሳችን ክሪቲካሊ አስበን ኢቫሉዌት አድርገን የሁለቱን ሐሳቦች ኢንተግሬት አድርገን በራሳችን ቋንቋ መናገር ይኖርብናል። ኦፍ ኮርስ ሳይቴሽን ያስፈልጋል። ዳይሬክት ኮት የግድ በቃ ማረክ ከሌለብን በስተቀር እና አየለ ነበለጠ በቶፒካችን ላይ የተናገሩትን ነገር more specifically about your variables, about each of your concepts የተናገሩትን ነገር በራሳችን ቃል አገናኝተን ኢንተግሬት አድርገን ማስቀመጥ አለብን እንጂ በለጠ አየለች እንደዚህ እያልን ምንም ያልተገናኘ ዲስኮኔክትድ የሆነ ነገር ሊሆን አይችልም። So each section where you talk about your different variables, your subtopics, it has to have a good flow in it. It has to have your voice in it because you're the one who's writing it and you're arguing. You know, on this thing, እንትና እንደዚህ ብሎ ነበር፣ እንትና ደግሞ እንደዚህ ብሎ ነበር እያላችሁ የራሳችሁን አርጉመንት ነው የምታቀርቡት። ምን እየተጠቀማችሁ እንትና ያሉት ነገር. So what they have said is supposed to support what you are arguing about. And so in your presentation of your argument, you'll be using those ones, what they have said, but then what they have said cannot be just put in, but it has to be integrated. It has to be integrated anyways, yeah, put together. Okay? The 8th step, you begin to write your literature review. Then just remember that your last one, allaka sipal allaka ayadለም. There are many mistakes, so you give it to somebody to read it for you to just check. And finally, you ask other people for advice and feedback on it. So this is basically what we said yesterday in brief. I hope this will be helpful for you to just remind you what it is. But I want to say this. This is an important skill. You never know. I know most of you, some of you will not necessarily do research. I mean, you will not do thesis. You may not do thesis. But then developing this skill is a very important skill because you never know at what point who may ask you to do something like this. You may be asked, you know what, our church needs to do some kind of a research, needs to do a research on this one. You want to be equipped, you want to have that ability. And the Lord has given you this time. I know it's not going to be easy, but He has given you this time to be able to learn to do this one. So I encourage you to go out, to try and do your best in it and learn this skill. So my prayers are with you as you work on this one. And I hope you will not allow this to frustrate you, but you will allow this to encourage you to persevere, to do well, and to excel. እግዚአብሔር ይባርካችሁ። ተባረኩልኝ።